They always warned us Afghanistan had places you didn't go after dark. But no one ever told us why. It wasn't the Taliban. It wasn't insurgents. It was something older. Something that didn't fear us, only watched us. And the soldiers who came back from those places, they all told the same story, even though none of them ever met. The mountains of eastern Afghanistan rise like broken teeth, jagged and ancient, older than the memory of any nation that ever fought among them. When the sun slips behind their ridges, shadows pour down the slopes like black water, filling every ravine, every gorge, every cave that scars the stone. Soldiers who deployed there often said the nights felt heavier, as if the darkness itself had weight, as if it were pressing against their helmets, their gear, and their nerves. For some, that feeling was simply the terrain, hostile, unforgiving, indifferent. But for one small reconnaissance element operating in 2012, the darkness would become something else entirely, something that seemed to move, breathe, and call to them by name. The story begins with a mission few people outside of the platoon ever knew existed. Officially, it was labeled a terrain familiarization and recon sweep near the mouth of the Spin Ghar mountain range, not far from the porous border trails fighters used to move toward the Khyber corridors. Unofficially, the team was there to investigate what intelligence analysts had called irregular acoustic patterns, strange signals picked up on remote listening arrays placed near cave systems suspected of hiding supply caches. These arrays were designed to detect movement, conversation, even the metallic scrape of weapons against stone. But what analysts heard wasn't conversation, it wasn't movement, it was voices, multiple, distorted, echoing where there shouldn't have been echoes. At first, the assumption was simple: enemy activity. Insurgent groups had used caves for years, storing munitions, hiding fighters, treating wounded away from drone surveillance. But as the recordings were studied, specialists noticed something unnerving. The voices didn't match known languages, not Pashto, not any neighboring dialect. More troubling, the frequency patterns didn't behave like normal human speech bouncing through stone. The sounds were drawn out, stretched, as if occurring at different distances at the same time. So, a 4-man reconnaissance team from the 82nd Airborne was sent to check it out. Their task wasn't to enter deep, only to visually confirm the state of the caves, look for signs of activity, and retrieve any evidence of habitation. Simple on paper, routine even. But as the team would later tell investigators, nothing about the mission felt routine from the moment their boots hit the gravel. The first night, the wind came down the mountains so cold it felt metallic, threading through their uniforms like needles. Their interpreter, a local man named Farid, kept glancing at the ridges when their team leader, Staff Sergeant Carter, finally asked him what he was looking at. Farid answered quietly, "These mountains remember things, and sometimes they call out." Carter chalked it up to folklore. Every region has its stories. But even he later noted in his written statement that the way Farid said it made the hair on the back of my neck lift. They set up a small overwatch position near a dry riverbed, a natural funnel leading to one of the cave networks analysts had flagged. The plan was to wait until moonrise, then approach the entrance while using thermal optics. And for the first few hours, everything was still, too still. No distant shepherds calling out to their flocks, no motorbikes tracing the ridge roads, no radio chatter from civilians. Just silence. Heavy, absolute silence. Then came the first voice. It drifted down from the dark slopes above them, faint at first, like someone speaking through cloth. Private Ramos, the youngest member of the team, froze. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. Carter hadn't, at least not clearly, but when he looked at Farid, the interpreter's eyes were wide. "Someone said my name," Ramos insisted. "From up there." It sounded like... He trailed off, unable to finish. Carter told him it was probably wind tunneling through the rocks, a common effect in canyon terrain. But even as he said it, something inside him felt wrong, like the air itself was holding its breath. As moonlight rose over the peaks, turning the slopes silver and ghost-like, the team moved toward the cave entrance. The closer they got, the colder the air became. Not the normal chill of mountain night. This was different, sharper, as if the cave were exhaling winter from deep within. When they reached the threshold, Carter raised his hand, signaling everyone to halt. Their thermals showed nothing. No body heat, no animals, not even bats. The cave was a dead corridor carved into stone. But then Ramos stiffened again. "Someone's in there," he whispered. "Someone's calling me." Carter scanned the darkness. Nothing. No movement, no sound, just the low hum of wind outside. "Ramos," Carter said firmly, "no one is saying your name. Focus." But the radio transcript captured what happened next. Ramos whispered, "Staff, I swear to God, I hear someone deeper inside saying, 'Ramos, come here.'" Moments later, Fareed confirmed quietly, "I hear something too. Not the name, but a voice." That was when the team activated their helmet cameras. Later, those recordings would be reviewed by military analysts and preserved in a redacted annex. But the footage, grainy, shaky, illuminated only by infrared, revealed something that has never been explained. As the team stepped inside the cave, the audio picked up faint whispers. Not quite words, not quite breath, but something human-shaped and moving. Carter later said the cave felt alive, as if it were responding to their presence. Walls seemed to absorb their light. Footsteps echoed too long, stretching unnaturally. And every few minutes, someone would hear their own name whispered from a direction the others didn't hear. The deeper they went, the worse it became. Fareed froze suddenly, staring into the darkness where the beam of his flashlight dissolved into blackness. "This is wrong," he said, shaking. "This place, it should not speak." Before Carter could respond, the voices came all at once. Not loud, not shouting, but close, inches from their ears. 4 different voices, each one saying a soldier's name. And then one final voice at the very end, faint, almost pleading, saying, "Help me." The team withdrew immediately, but the cave wasn't done with them. As they backed out, the whispers followed, growing fainter with distance but never disappearing, as if something in the mountain was watching them leave. Once outside, the air returned to normal, the tension lifted, but none of them could explain what they'd heard. Not long after the mission, analysts re-examined the audio arrays. The strange signals continued for several weeks, then stopped completely, never returning. To this day, there is no confirmed explanation. Some blamed wind acoustics, though specialists argued the patterns didn't match natural formations. Others suggested insurgents attempting psychological tactics, though the language mismatch and lack of human signatures made that unlikely. Fareed had his own theory, rooted not in science, but in memory. He told Carter quietly, "There are caves in these mountains where people once hid long ago. They say their voices remain when their bodies do not." Carter didn't believe in legends, but when he filed his official report, he wrote one sentence that still appears in the redacted version. "Whatever was in that cave knew our names, and it wasn't Echo." The mission was never repeated, and the mountain kept its secrets. The mountains of Afghanistan stretch like jagged monuments to a forgotten time, their ridges jagged, their cliffs carved by centuries of wind, rain, and human conflict. Beneath those cliffs lie tunnels, some old, some forgotten, some deliberately hidden. Soldiers call them by code names, echo networks, shadow tunnels, or simply the forgotten corridors. Most are unremarkable, used for shelter, ambush, or smuggling. But there are whispers of tunnels that are different, tunnels that seem alive. In the spring of 2015, a U.S. Army Special Reconnaissance Unit of 6 men and 1 local interpreter was deployed to survey a mountainous region near the Kunar Valley. The area was notorious: high cliffs, unstable rock, and a network of caves that had been used intermittently for centuries. Their mission was routine: patrol, confirm the presence of insurgent hideouts, and map previously uncharted tunnels. What they did not expect was to stumble upon a passage that seemed to resist the passage of light and time itself. The first sign something was wrong came before they even entered. The interpreter, a man named Amir, stopped mid-step, scanning the entrance of a particularly narrow, jagged tunnel. "I do not like this one," he said, voice low, eyes darting. "The elders tell stories of these passages. Things crawl there at night." Carter, the team leader, dismissed it as superstition. The soldiers had been trained to ignore fear, but instinct is hard to silence. As they moved inside, the tunnel's walls seemed unnaturally smooth, polished by unknown hands. The air was heavy and cold, carrying a metallic tang that made each breath harsh. Their flashlights barely pierced the darkness. Shadows clung to every corner, and strange echoes bounced off walls that should not have been parallel, creating sounds that were impossible to trace. Then they heard it, scratching, soft at first, coming from deeper in the tunnel. "Probably rats," Private Lewis said, but even he hesitated, the tone betraying his unease. The scraping grew louder, more deliberate, rhythmic. And then came the low hiss, like air being forced through a slit in stone. The drone they had launched earlier for thermal scans began flickering erratically, lights strobing across the walls, showing movement, but nothing human. It emerged slowly, not walking, not crawling in a conventional way, its limbs bent in impossible angles, its body fluid and dark, gleaming faintly under their flashlights' beams. The team froze as it lifted its head, or what passed for a head, and regarded them. Its movements were unnervingly intelligent, studying each soldier, measuring, calculating. It hissed again, a wet, gurgling sound that seemed almost vocal. The air itself shifted, carrying a whisper: "Leave, leave, leave." But it was not the voice of the creature alone. The tunnel itself seemed to echo the words, bending sound in ways that defied physics. Panic set in. The team tried to backtrack, but the tunnel seemed to have changed. Passages twisted, shifted. Walls that had seemed solid now angled differently. Light flickered, shadows elongated unnaturally, and the whispers multiplied. Each soldier began hearing their name called, not once, but repeatedly from directions they hadn't walked yet. Corporal Hernandez fired his rifle at the creature as it lunged forward. Bullets met stone, or something harder than stone,
Sparks flew, but the thing recoiled only slightly, then disappeared into a side passage, leaving only faint scraping in its wake. The team realized with dawning horror that this was no ordinary predator, no human trap, no natural cave anomaly. It was something else entirely, a presence bound to the tunnel, a predator that had existed before their mission, before the war, before memory itself. Hours, or perhaps minutes later, they reached a massive cavern, ceiling high enough to disappear into darkness. Symbols etched on the walls pulsed faintly, resonating with the whispers, forming patterns that Amir recognized from old tribal stories, sigils used to ward off intruders, but here distorted, as if twisted by centuries. The thing emerged again, fully visible now in the cavern's open space, grotesque and alive, yet intelligent. It didn't charge. It observed, and then it spoke, not in words, but in sensation. A pressure in the skull, a vibration in the chest, a whisper that bypassed the ears entirely. The tunnel had become a conduit for the creature's will. Fear, anticipation, and confusion surged through the soldiers. Every instinct screamed to flee, yet their bodies moved in tandem with the shifting floor, as if the tunnel itself had control over them. When they finally staggered back toward the entrance, emerging into the moonlit night, the air changed instantly. The cold, metallic tang vanished. The tunnel seemed ordinary again, yet every soldier knew it had changed them. They carried the memory of a living tunnel and something that had crawled from its depths, a thing older than the mountains, older than human fear. Back at base, reports were filed. Redactions covered most of the strange details, the drone footage that flickered with impossible shapes, the whispers of names, and the impossible angles of walls. Soldiers were debriefed, told to classify the experience as terrain anomaly. The creature was never found again, yet every tunnel explored in the region afterward carried the same unnerving feeling of being watched, of being tested, of being alive. And in villages nearby, the elders speak quietly of old tunnels that crawl at night, of guardians that watch intruders, and of the things that crawl out when curiosity oversteps caution. These stories, dismissed as folklore, may have been warnings, but now they also carry a testimony, recorded in the trembling voices of those who returned. Some say the creature waits still, slinking through tunnels unlit by light, crawling in silence, ensuring that the boundaries between the world of the living and the unknown remain intact. And for those who dare enter, it is not death that awaits, but the slow realization that the darkness itself is alive and it remembers your name.
It was one of those dead quiet nights you only get in Afghanistan during winter. The kind of cold where your breath fogs the inside of your collar and the mountains look like dark, sleeping giants around you. We'd just come off a long patrol, dust still caked in the folds of our uniforms, when a few of the younger guys asked if we ever saw anything strange out there. You know how it is. Boredom, too much instant coffee, and the kind of darkness that makes people ask questions. So we were sitting around the burn barrel out behind the motor pool, flames popping, metal creaking. The base generators hummed in the distance. Helicopters thumped somewhere far off. And for whatever reason, maybe I was tired, maybe I was finally ready to let some of it out, I told them there was one night I never forgot, one I still don't talk about in daylight. They all leaned in, even the ones pretending not to. I told them it started on Highway 1, sometime around 0030. The sky was moonless, just black on black. We'd been escorting supply trucks between two FOBs, nothing dramatic, just hours of slow rolling and scanning shadows for movement that never came. You get used to the monotony, the boredom, the way every rock looks like an IED until it isn't. But that night, the air felt wrong, heavy. Even the radio chatter died off. I was in the second MRAP of the convoy, turret gunner above me scanning from right to left like a metronome. The only light came from our headlights, cutting long, pale cones into the dust. About 20 minutes outside the village, the lead truck suddenly dropped speed. Not a full brake, just hesitation, enough to feel it in my chest. The driver keyed up on the radio, a tight whisper cutting through the static. "Convoy, be advised, something's crossing the road up ahead." We all froze. There are things you expect to hear out there. Goats, civilians, stray dogs, maybe Taliban moving at night. But the tone in his voice was wrong. It wasn't fear, it was confusion. Our vehicle commander leaned forward. "Crossing? You mean personnel?" A pause. Then, negative, I don't know what the hell this is." The turret gunner above me muttered, "What the hell is he talking about?" and swung the 50 cal to the front. The driver slowed us almost to a crawl. All I could see were shadows and dust, a pale stretch of road disappearing into nothing. But the lead vehicle's spotlight was fixed on something, and then the radio cracked again. "It's big. Real big." The guys around the fire pit looked at me wide-eyed. One of them laughed under his breath, but it wasn't a mocking laugh, more like a nervous tick. I shook my head slowly. Big doesn't begin to cover it. I told them how the road dipped slightly, then rose again before curving out of sight. Whatever crossed did it in that dip, partially hidden by darkness, but we saw enough. The shape moved like a shadow with weight, a heavy, deliberate stride. Not fast, not panicked, just crossing, like it owned the whole damn valley. It blocked both lanes, had to be 8, 9 feet tall at least. Shoulders broad enough that the spotlight caught only part of it at a time, the rest swallowed by the night. No details, just a hulking silhouette. And the sound, that heavy thud of weight settling into dirt and gravel with each step. Not quite animal, not quite human. The turret gunner whispered something I'll never forget. "That's no camel." The creature, shape, whatever you want to call it, stopped halfway across the road. Just stopped. And its head turned towards us. Now, when I say head, I don't mean I saw eyes or a face. It was too dark, and I'm not about to lie to make this sound spookier, but the outline shifted, shoulders angled, attention locked on us, like it was listening, measuring. The convoy held its breath. Then the radio erupted with overlapping whispers. "What is that? You seeing this? Jesus Christ. Should we engage?" Our convoy commander snapped, "Hold fire! Hold fire!" The last thing anyone wanted was to shoot a civilian or an animal. That's how things spiral. But we all knew, hell, we felt, that whatever that thing was, it wasn't some farmer's livestock out for a stroll. The shape moved again, slow and steady, and stepped off the road into open desert. Its outline faded, swallowed by the black, and then it just was gone. No sound, no dust moving, no silhouette. Nothing. Just empty night. The guys around the burn barrel didn't blink. Nobody joked now. Even the private, who always had a smart comment, stayed quiet. I told them how the convoy sat there for a full minute before anyone breathed, how the commander finally keyed the radio with a shaky voice and said, "All vehicles continue. Keep eyes open." Not one man wanted to drive forward past the place where it crossed, but we did. And no one saw anything else. No prints, no heat signatures, no movement on thermal, nothing on drone footage later. When we got back to base, the commander filed a routine report. Convoy paused due to obstruction on roadway. And that was it. We were told not to talk about it. Probably a camel, they said. Maybe a civilian. Night illusions. Dust bloom. Fatigue. Pick your excuse. But every man in that convoy saw the same thing. And none of us believed the official line. I looked at the young soldiers sitting around me, firelight flickering across their faces. I said, "You asked for strange. That's the one I don't joke about." One of them swallowed hard. "So what do you think it was?" I poked at the burning wood, watched sparks drift upward. "I don't know. But whatever it wasn't meant to be out there. And it sure as hell wasn't meant for us to see." The base went silent for a beat. Then a helicopter thumped low overhead, and the moment passed. Like the night swallowing the story back up. But I could tell, by the way the younger guys stared into the dark beyond the HESCO walls, they'd never look at midnight convoys the same way again.
What we've just walked through tonight are 3 stories separated by years, miles, and units, yet connected by one unsettling thread. That in the mountains and deserts of Afghanistan, the darkness is rarely empty. From a cave that whispered names it should never have known, to a living tunnel that moved like something alive beneath the earth, to a midnight convoy interrupted by a towering shape that vanished without a trace. Each of these encounters came from trained soldiers, men who knew the terrain, knew the threats, and knew the difference between fear and something genuinely unexplainable. And when different units in different provinces across different years all quietly report the same feeling, that the land itself is aware of them, watching them, remembering them, it makes you wonder how many stories never left the wire at all. Now the question becomes, what do you think these men experienced? Were these natural phenomenon? Folklore bleeding into reality? Something ancient hidden in the mountains? Or something we still don't have a name for? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, because the truth behind these encounters often comes from the theories you bring, the details you notice, and the questions you're willing to ask. If you enjoyed these stories and you want to hear more accounts like this, told through the voices of the men who lived them, make sure to hit that subscribe button, click like, and share your own theories or experiences down below. Your support helps this channel grow, helps these stories be told, and keeps us diving deeper into the mysteries hidden in wartime shadows. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay safe, stay curious,
And remember, some places in this world don't just hold history. They hold memories, and some of those memories whisper back.